Hello. This is actually a prequel. After I finished recording I was about to say part 1 because I am going to break up this transmission in part 1 and part 2. I didn't record part 2 yet. But when I was tuning in, I was speaking on the magnetic poles. And as I was sort of giving the symbology connection with like the magnetic poles as negative and positive charge, like with the masculine feminine representation, I realized, even though I was feeling that energetically, that there was like a missing piece to that. So I decided before I post to look it up. And what I found is something I want to share for the preparatory before this actual transmission goes into it. So you'll hear me say hello again because I'm again recording this after. Okay, so no magnetic poles are north and south, not positive and negative, like electric charges. I'm going to say it again. No. Magnetic poles are north and south, not positive and negative like electric charges. However, they behave similarly. Opposites attract, likes repel, and are often called positive negative for simplicity. When I said that, my laptop just went black. I don't know why, but that feels significant. Though technically incorrect, as magnetic field lines exit the North Pole and enter the South Pole, forming closed loops. The confusion arises because a magnet's north-seeking pole is attracted to the Earth's geographic North Pole, which is actually a magnetic South Pole. If you're like, why are you reading this to us? I promise I'm getting somewhere. Okay, so then it says, key differences and similarities. Electric poles, positive and negative. Magnetic poles, north and south. Interaction, north attracts south, like electric. Positive attracts negative. North repels north, like positive repels positive. Nature, magnets always have both poles. You can't have a single magnetic pole, magnetic monopole. And then it goes on to talk about why the confusion. So the nature, magnets always have both poles. It's like the idea of wholeness, right? Like each individual person, if we're bringing it back to the reflection of our external world and then us as people, as beings, as I will say later on, like, of course, we both have that internal masculine, feminine, negative, positive charge, if you will. And then talking about like what repels and what attracts, the opposites, etc. So when I talk about the magnetic poles, like switching, of course, it's within ourselves, like I said, and then that the whole, and then that will also play out in our external world in ways. In dynamics, relationships, etc. So I just wanted to sort of clear that up in case I sort of did not cover that fully. Excuse me. There's also something about closing loops, like when it talks about the loops, and cycles and how humans go through, like, if you want to call it like karmic lessons, and how we can sort of like essentially be on a loop. And then in order to like integrate that loop, it's like creating new neural pathways so that we can make different choices and spiral into the next octave of consciousness and experience. So yeah, I just wanted to, and now I'm being shown like the toroidal field or the auric field and how like the lines or the field lines are reflecting back in our own magnetic or auric field. Okay, so then it says, why the confusion? Compasses use the, quote, north end of a magnet points north because it's attracted to the Earth's magnetic pole in the north, which by magnetic law must be a south pole. Honestly, I'm not like fully comprehending that in the moment, but I feel like I just needed to read it. And then here it says field lines. We define the North Pole as where magnetic field lines leave the magnet and the South Pole as where they re-enter, creating continuous loops unlike electric fields. So interesting. Yeah, so I'm sure more will come through about that, but I just got extremely hot as I'm talking about this. Okay, so now there will be a little bit of a restart. And interestingly, you'll hear at the end of this audio, if you get there, that one of the cats that I'm watching is eating. I don't know why that feels synchronistic, but it does. She was sleeping all day, and she always comes out like a little bit after dark when I'm here. And there's like something about that. You may be like receiving some sort of communication like at night after a lull or something. Or some of you may be getting your appetite back, or someone you're connected to, whether that's literally like maybe you haven't been as hungry, or like passionately, you know? Okay, so there's that. But at the end of this recording, like I was saying, I ended the initial recording at I didn't realize it was 4:44 in the timer, or on the clock. And then when I went back to listen, which I don't always do, I realized that the whole last section of the recording got deleted. And I was talking about new beginnings. And yeah, so there's something really synchronistic about the audio getting deleted at 4:44. And I was talking about like protection. So I am going to go back into, in part 2, the end of that. But I just wanted to talk about the significance of like a restart, or like when things leave, or like trusting parts of that and not like giving up, you know? There's something about that. Okay. The transition will happen now. Hello. Hello. So it's 1:44 on the clock, and where do I begin? Where do I end? Has someone been asking themselves that? Like, where do I begin and where do you end? Or where do you begin or where do I end? It feels like I just like entered this like existential, like poetic, sort of dreamy, yet also somewhat chaotic, fast moving, yet somehow slow energy. Whew. I am picking up this recording the next day. I started on New Year's Eve, the 31st of December, 2025. It is now 2026, and what we call on this planet New Year's Day, the Gregorian calendar, of course. And I just realized in my dreams last night, I dreamt what feels somewhat like a collective energetic tap-in, and my friend was in my dream and she messaged me Happy New Year. So I was like, oh, Happy New Year, you were in my dream. And so I started to recap the dream to her. And okay, so yeah, that's so funny. Yesterday was the 31st when I started this recording, like I just mentioned, and I happened to look over. I'm staying at my friend's place while they're on their mini moon and watching their cats. And I just realized that the number 31 is there. So the number 31 could be of significance. Maybe some of you might feel called to look up the number 31, like angel number 31. Feel free to share if you do. And I'm pausing for a moment if you haven't noticed. Okay, so when I was reflecting on the dream, my friend's response was, seems like some light chaos. And that phrase really got to me because I didn't realize until I just went back and listened to what I recorded yesterday, which I don't always do, but I felt called to do that. And I was talking about that sort of like stillness yet somewhat chaotic, and the phrase light chaos was just like the perfect, phrasing of what I was feeling. And yeah, that was a little bit synchronistic because she didn't know I was talking about that, and I honestly completely forgot that's what I said. Anyway, so I felt, I looked at the clock and it was 3:33, and 2:33 on the timer now, and I was just kind of almost like, I got this energy when I looked at the 3:33 of like waiting for something, or like someone's been waiting for something, or like you've been waiting for something. And then it was like 3:34, and then I was like, and then it was 3:35. I don't know. It was like something about like kind of watching the clock. I'm hearing that song from Madonna in my head. Time goes by so slowly, so slowly. Tick, tick, tock goes, I forget, something like that. Okay, bear with me because I'm getting so many energetic strands like forming as I'm speaking, and I want to do my best to sort of integrate the energy and share what's coming through. So the light chaos, that phrase, I was getting this image also of like, so this really feels, as I'm continuing to sort of excavate this like frequency that's coming in, I'm being shown the frequency bands, and like I'm seeing the aurora lights and the hierogamic template. So I feel like this is definitely a hierogamic template tap in. And in maybe like a science class in grade school, when you learn about the magnetic poles of the earth, like the negative and the positive poles, I'm essentially being shown like in the hierogamic template, the masculine and feminine dynamics. Of course, we have that within all of us individually. So this is for the individual, and it may also apply to someone externally to you as well. For a few of you, it may be like a group. That may be like a very small amount. And for some of you, it could be playing out in multiple areas of life. Anyway, it feels like there's this magnetic pole switch. They say like every so often, the poles of the earth like switch. And I also have like read that that's kind of I have to go back into that research because it has been a while, but I'm getting like a ping or a memory of like the poles switching being not necessarily a myth, but not exactly how it's been portrayed. Like there is something that happens, but it's like maybe not what we thought. And I know there's a lot of talk right now in the science community, like science is evolving as well, and I've been starting these transmissions. I think I've done 2 or 3 so far, and I'm calling it the quantum mirror edition. And obviously in hierogamic template, mirroring is a very common thing. So you may be seeing like mirroring numbers, having dreams about mirrors, seeing symbolism about mirrors, songs about mirrors. The one that's coming to mind is the Justin Timberlake song, literally called Mirrors. And another theme I've been noticing, I literally just was holding my breath, and I don't know why I was doing that. And I almost didn't realize it. And then I was like I need to take a gasp. Maybe someone here, or someone you're connected to, like if you get nervous or something, or how like anxiety or just like different ways we can manifest through our body. So maybe you're someone who like doesn't realize that you're not breathing if you're like excited or nervous or scared or something like that. Or maybe there's something about coming back to more conscious breathing there. Yeah. This is so weird. I just like a clip flashed in my head of, I don't think I can say this on YouTube. I'm gonna like, when you text and you use an asterisk for a letter, if you need to curse, I'm going to spell that. D asterisk CK asterisk. Am I saying that? I can't say that word too many times or it messes up. Do you have any words like that where you try to say it too much and it like jumbles? D asterisk, I just did it, CK. In the box, I think it's like a skit from SNL. I don't know why I'm seeing that specifically. I think Justin Timberlake, he's coming through so much right now. I don't know, maybe someone just watched that or maybe you think that's really funny. I'm not sure why that's coming through, but 343. I've also been seeing the number 43 a lot today, which if you've heard me say before, that is like my connection to the hieroglyphic template number or divine union, whatever you want to call it. And back to the pole switching. 737 on the timer. Someone might be taking a flight soon, or maybe you just booked a flight. There's something coming through about like travel, astral travel. Maybe some of you are having astral travel experiences or dreams about planes. Okay, so a couple things about the plane symbolism. There's something about like setting your sights higher. So maybe some of you have already done this recently. Maybe you feel like, I actually want more for myself and I'm going to like believe in myself and live up to that. Maybe some of you are being called to do that. And then there's also a group, some of you may fit in both groups, some of you may not, where you may be trying to lovingly like have someone, like you may see potential in someone and you may be trying to like push them higher before their time. Does that make sense? Like, or in the way that is not working for them. So there's something about like holding space for someone without maybe like kind of trying to like push them into what you think, or this could be something you used to do and maybe you've like reassessed that. So you can take that how it fits. I know that might be a little bit hard to hear for someone, but I've definitely gone through phases of this too. So I very much understand. And that's why I said lovingly, because like it feels like the intent, or maybe someone's doing that to you, take it how it fits. But speaking of that pole switch, the magnetic pole, it's as if like your internal dynamics, masculine and feminine, are going through like a switch, which again can also play out externally with like another dynamic. And back to that like time waiting. As soon as I said that, a helicopter just is flying by. And I don't see a lot of them out of the window that I'm sitting at. I just heard a chopper. I don't know. Does someone like to speak in a British accent, or maybe someone's British? I'm seeing like eagle eye, and then I'm hearing like golden eye. I'm hearing these like different, like I'm also seeing in the movie Black Hawk Down. Oh my God, I can't remember that guy's name. Everyone used to have such a crush on him when I was younger. Josh Hartnett. I don't know, maybe someone's like in the military or something. I'm not sure where that's coming through, but yeah, so back to that like waiting energy, like watching the clock, literally, metaphorically. It feels like whoever was doing that before is like no longer just waiting, and you're taking like inspired action and letting go of control in other ways, like that's like the serenity prayer, letting go of what you can't control and taking control of what you can. And it really feels like the core of it is like confidence, believing in yourself. And there's also like something coming through about like cycles. I've been talking about this a lot with like friends and just myself. And I've noticed like a lot of people that reflect on past cycles will say like, okay, this is the way I used to do things, but like now I'm doing it this way. As if like the way someone used to do something was wrong, or the way they used to do it is wrong. Like, oh, I can't believe I did it that way. Now that I know better, I'm doing it this way, which does of course have some truth to it. But there's something coming through about like honoring all of the cycles and like understanding. I feel like when I started really like tuning into the collective energy, I could feel and see like the waves of energy that come through, or the waves of cycles. And when we look at like different epochs of the earth and cycles of planets, you know, like really zooming out, there is like a design of operating within that current flow of energetics. And so like there's something about like appreciating that you, the proverbial you, is like doing the best they can within that framework. And try, like, this won't be for everyone, but if like some of you maybe have like some sort of guilt, or like, oh, I wish I would have known that and I would have done it this way. Like, it's like that phrase training ground has been coming out a lot lately. Like sometimes we go through these like training ground periods, and, you know, we're meant to have, when I say meant, I know that sounds a little bit cliche, but it's like if you believe in like setting up blueprints of our lives, you know, and returning back to the quote, original crystalline blueprint is like about uncovering what's already there. And of course that can come with like alchemization of ancestral lineages. So some of you may feel like you're in that role, but there's still this like design that was set up to have these certain experiences, you know? And maybe it feels like I'm seeing someone like in an ocean, like trying to get out. And I'll use a personal example that can come off as embarrassing, but I mean, this is what happened. I've like had almost multiple drowning experiences, actually. Like, and you would think that somewhere along the way, after like the third one, I would have like, and I love to research, but it never, I'm just being very honest here, it never dawned on me to like understand why this, like, I was always looking at the spiritual perspective, but the physical, like, one day someone said to me, you know, why don't you just swim parallel? Like, you're supposed to swim, like, you can't go with the current. You have to swim, like, you know, parallel to the shoreline. Like, no one ever mentioned that to me. I never thought to look that up. I didn't know that was a thing. Like, oh, like, and I just had this moment of like, that's such a, like, how did I not know that? Like, why did it take that many times to know, you know? And I like kind of beat myself up in the moment. And then I was like, well, you don't know what you don't know, you know? So, and then I've had other people say to me like, well, why do you keep going in the ocean then? Because I love the ocean and I don't want it to like, to not experience it just because I keep, you know, there's something going on here, obviously. But like, so yeah, that's just an example. But I could have done a lot of things, like never gone in the ocean again, or beat myself up that I didn't know what I didn't know. But like, yeah, I probably look stupid to a lot of people, but I mean, I'm just doing my best at the time, you know? So that was just a very specific example. But there's also this like refinement of masculine energy. So regardless of the sex, you know, and this magnetic pole shift. And I have been realizing a phrase that's been coming through from a lot of different people. Like, I will never do this again. Like, I'm done with X, apply whatever that is for you. And like prioritizing like alignment and peace is becoming prevalent in those of us who are like tapped into this energetic strand and ready to co-create from that experience. And so it's like, you may be like ready to like, you know, quit a job or let certain clients go, or however it shows up for you, or certain relationships, certain experiences, because you're prioritizing your own needs, you know? That's just an example. So from that place, then you'll be making, of course, different decisions and different environments, people, places, things, like, which will lead you to new doors, new windows. It may not look like that in the moment for some of you, and I know I'm also going through this personally, so I can very much relate to this. And I just want to say that it's not always the easiest thing to do. So I commend you if this is you and you're still here. And yeah, in the last like 12 to 15 hours, two very important people to me got these really amazing potential opportunities, very unexpected. So I do, even though I'm not in that group personally at the moment, I still like feel for a lot of us, like this month is, whenever you're finding this, you know, it's timeless. Currently January 2026, but linear time is not as important, more so than when you're finding this. Oh, and I was about to say, yeah, there's like going to be this like opportunistic windfall or potential. And as soon as I was about to say that, I looked at the screen and I have a movie paused because I felt like I had to record. And it's like a waterfall and these like green rolling hills. And it's so interesting because my friend that I messaged that had a dream about, she told me her dream, and her dream was based in these green rolling hills. And she's one of the people who had this opportunity. And then my other friend who just got an opportunity, the one who's on a mini moon, who I'm watching their cats. Funny story, they were actually my cats and I gave them, so I still get to visit. It's really great, actually. She sent me a picture of all this like greenery where they are, like rolling, it looked like rolling green hills. So in the last like very short time, there's something about green rolling hills coming through, or like greenery. So there could be like something connected to that for someone. Also, I've been seeing baseballs. I know it's really, really a weird synchronistic sign, but in the last few days, like I've just seen so many weird references to baseballs. And then A League of Their Own is the movie I'm watching, which is about baseball. Like I didn't even know that was on Netflix, and it popped up. I used to like love that movie as a kid. Also, I played baseball as a kid, so maybe someone here played oh, the energy is like tripping on itself. Played baseball, and yeah, I'm just picking up on anything else. Also, the significance to A League of Their Own. If you're familiar or unfamiliar, but it's about like a girls' baseball team when the war was, it's funny because I was talking about like the military, when it's based on a true story. Of course, for the movie, they added in some drama and specific characters, but it is based on a true experience. When the war was happening and baseball was not happening, they then recruited women to play baseball. And of course, they got a backlash because women playing baseball then was like, you know, ridiculous. Look how far we've come as a society, right? Anyway, and the baseball experience, even though like you could say it's just baseball, but like these women were like the first of they were like pioneering something that hadn't been done in that way, at least. So there could be this energy of feeling like you are stepping into some sort of like authority, leadership, pioneering in some way. And yeah, I'm seeing the number 717. So you could be seeing 717, 737 is coming through again, also 747. I just took a pause, and something else that came through. There's a phrase. Oh, maybe it's not exactly a phrase. A friend of mine taught me God letters. I'm a little like not skeptical, but my relationship with the word God, I don't just like use that freely, you know. It's not really a word that I use, but there might be other names for this, but I kept hearing that phrase God letter the last couple days. And there's a situation perhaps with someone externally or something externally that feels like, speaking of like magnetic pole switching, that you're being called to internally work through first, you know, whether it's through writing like a God letter, or just writing it out, painting, however you express yourself, speaking out loud, maybe multiple mediums of expression, reflection, however you work through journaling, and like kind of shifting the energetics internally, that alchemization process, and then reapproaching the situation at a later date. Some of you may not even need to approach anything. You might just shift it internally, and then something's going to come to you externally. It may be different for each of you, but there may be something, someone, etc., that you're being called to sort of go within first. I know that phrase can sometimes get annoying, but that's the way I'm hearing it. So there's also this internal process that I'm speaking of, right? Internally working with our electromagnetic fields, internal, external, masculine, feminine, and enough of us doing this, of course, is going to create the quantum mirror, that I keep talking about, an external shift. So we may be seeing some news soon about the magnetic poles. I haven't checked in a while. I used to keep up with that more. But that may be popping in soon. I just heard. So we'll see. I meant to look up something actually, and I kept getting distracted. So maybe I'll look that up in a few minutes. But I just wanted to also acknowledge the pole switching because, I think they say it's I used to know this number by heart, 26,000 years. No, that's probably wrong. I have to check, but there's something significant, and I'm realizing this now. I kept being shown a lot of the other epochs that are coming up in a lot of people's memories now, like Lemuria, Atlantis, and both of them have come up with other people in my life recently in the last couple days. And I kept pulling, I was staying at my mom's last few weeks, and one of my old Oracle decks is there that I haven't played, touched in a long time. One of them is Rebecca Campbell, Work Your Light. You may be seeing a lot of dolphins and whales right now. Dolphins and whales have been coming through so strongly. Doves, turtles. I'm seeing seals and white animals. So elephants. So there's something about, I wrote about this on Substack, the integration of Atlantis and Lemuria. Why I think they're getting so popular now is there's this idea of not being able to reconcile. And I know often Lemuria is depicted as a more feminine society, a highlight of the feminine pole or the feminine aspect. And then, Atlantis more of that masculine technological expression. And it's said that the flood happened, whether you take that metaphorically, literally both. There wasn't not able to be this reconciling of, if you think about it internally, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain, the creative side and the logical side. And so because there was not able to be this coming together, essentially there was this wipeout. And I've heard someone else say that this next, it's funny because I kept hearing the phrase this week, shockwave. It's this next wave of energy coming in, this wave of consciousness for those of us. That's why I think it's so heavy in the energy for a lot of us right now, speaking of the masculine and feminine dynamics, because if we remember that riff or this inability to come together, again, played out through Lemuria, Atlantis, through even in A League of Their Own. I was just talking about the baseball movie, boys versus girls. Girls can't play baseball. There's this these dynamics that happen all the time. And also the word dichotomy. I just released a transmission with the word dichotomy, and I think I took a picture. I was reading maybe was it a YouTube comment or a Reddit comment, and someone was asking. My brother-in-law sent me this. It was Reddit. That's right. My brother-in-law sent me this link, and it was about this woman who had European ancestry as well as African. And in the African ancestry, not just ancestry, her parents were, I think her dad was African and her mother was European. So she grew up in both scenarios. And in the African side of the family, it was a lot of like holistic teachings, and there were healers in her family. And then of course in the European aspect, it was more of like the logical, practical, daily like life stuff. Anyway, so people were like asking her about it. And one of the things they asked is like about the like her passion, I guess, from the experience was like something that I actually really always believe in, and like bridging science and spirituality, right? And it's funny because I, like a lot of us, the pendulum swing, I think at one point in my life, I was like kind of fed up with Western medicine. And then I had to like come back to like a middle ground and bridging that. Anyway, so it's kind of a similar idea of these dichotomies. And one of her responses, someone asked her like, why do you think it's taken this long, like to utilize, be able to like why is it always like holistic or Western medicine? And she's like, I really feel like, or maybe it was someone in the comments, I can't remember, but someone said like, it's hard for people to like reconcile that dichotomy of like, okay, well, if holistic is right and Western medicine is right, like how can they both be right? Like someone has to be wrong, and like a lot of humanity has that type of thinking, like black or white, like there's not room for both, So it's like the scene in that I was just watching in A League of Their Own, like one of the girls is crying and the coach is a guy and he's used to being with like men, and he was like, there's no crying in baseball. There is no crying in baseball. There is no crying in baseball. But like there she was crying in baseball, and he just like could not wrap his head around that at that moment. So there may be something that you feel called to like bridge in some way, like integrating that dichotomy, in your own like passions, endeavors in some way. And it feels like that this idea of like the magnetic pole switch is going through another swing, and there will be externalized aspects of that. And I think the epochs of Lemuria and Atlantis coming through, because in conjunction with pole switching, from my memory, there was something about like the Atlantic epoch being significant. And I believe that in a linear time, a lot of people say it was around 26,000 years ago. So there's something really significant about a switch in the 26,000 year cycle, like where, the ascent into the next golden age, like that feels like such an important piece that a lot of us are remembering, whether it's like conscious, subconscious, both, wherever you're at with that. Okay, so I just did a quick little magnetic pole switching search, and I want to read what came up. A magnetic pole switch, in parentheses, geomagnetic reversal, is a natural recurring event where Earth's magnetic north and south poles swap places, driven by chaotic flows in the planet's liquid outer core, a process known as the geodynamo. And like I think it's so synchronistic when it says driven by chaotic flows, because that phrase, again, like chaos, coming through my dream state, coming through conversations, and like the way it came through in this specific transmission, like makes so much sense when I read this. So anyway, these reversals happen irregularly, averaging release every few 100,000 years. I knew I was way off. Last one, 780,000 years ago, and involve the magnetic field weakening, becoming complex with multiple poles, then reestablishing in the opposite direction, a process taking centuries to millennia. While the Earth is considered overdue, quote, for a flip, the current wandering of the magnetic north... I was just going to bring up the magnetic North Pole before I even saw that. I kept feeling that energy, so I love that came through. North Pole towards Siberia is a normal sign of this dynamic process, not an immediate crisis, though a weakened field during a flip could affect satellites and technology. Okay, so there is a significance to that phrase, weakening field, and multiple poles, because I was saying like there could be like a group or like multiple things coming through. weakening field. Yeah, for me, like the word vulnerability is coming through. So you may be feeling like a new sense of vulnerability, or like something like that, where you feel like your senses are down in some way, or maybe this is happening to someone connected to you and you're having like the opposite effect, hence like the switching of the poles, you know? Okay. I wrote down in my notes today, Canada. Canada has been coming up an insane amount the last couple of days. And I was like, what's up with Canada? Why is this coming through so strongly? Am I meant to go to Canada? Like, what is this? So I literally wrote it down like right before I started recording, and I was about to talk about Canada. And I just felt the urge to scroll down the page. Current situation: the magnetic North Pole is rapidly shifting from Canada towards Siberia. So yeah, there's definitely something happening. I feel that so strongly. This movement, along with a general weakening of the field, indicates the geodynamo is active, but a full flip is not imminent. Right? And it is something so, prominent about how those of us like who are having these conversations, like how we can show up, you know, in a more balanced way. Some of us are already doing this or trying to, because I really do feel like our own magnetic fields like react, right? And so I've heard people like having discussions about this in like maybe not in such direct ways, but indirectly or inadvertently. And hold on, I'm going to pause because I can feel something and I want to just let it kind of formulate for a moment. Oh, did you hear that? It sounded like a train horn in the background. Okay, so geomagnetic reversal, right? Exactly. That's probably what I'm going to like title this transmission or something of that sort. The last 6 months or year or so, I've been talking a lot about auric field like reconfiguration, essentially, auric layering, and there's been catastrophizing, is that the right word? Prophetic like predictions for so long about, you know, really dramatic, you know, I keep saying, you know, I'm working on that. Weather events and flipping of the poles, and everything's going to be so dramatic, and solar flares, and how we respond to that, and people like losing power, and everything being like so apocalyptic in nature. And when we zoom out and when we kind of look at how our own consciousness plays a role in that, and when we understand the natural cycles of how, again, planets go through like volcanoes, like dormant stages, like there's something about, I'm seeing like in Titanic when the ship's going down and there's nothing anyone can do at that point, and the people on the ship, that I think it was like the musicians, they're like, we're just going to keep playing and we're going to go down with the ship because this is what we're doing. And they had just such a peaceful, I'm not saying like we should, I hope that isn't coming across as like everyone should just like, what I'm trying to say is like there's something about, okay, wait, something else is coming through. So I'm trying to remember who this was. There was another channeler on YouTube. I think it was Spiritualistic, and she brought through like this memory of a civilization where it was either her or Lexi the Leo. I can't remember which one. I'm so sorry. They're both amazing channelers, but they were talking about this society that came through where there was such a connection to universal law and the way that essentially the world, as they knew it, the cycles of nature, that they knew at some point there was going to be like a dormant period, you know, like a natural descension in consciousness. And in the planet's life, it's like essentially a planet going into like a long hibernation. So the people that were so tuned into that prepared for when life came back again, that they would be able to like essentially have these time capsules so they could kind of remember that. And I used to have these, like, before I even heard that, these like visions. I don't know if they were visions. They were more just like downloads through specific crystals that were sent to me, where I would kind of just go into meditation and be shown these, like, oh, I have chills on my left hand. I would be shown these epochs where those of us, essentially, like, if you are tuned in at all to like the CDT plates or the Cloister Dora plates, or some of you might come through for the Akashic Records or both, where it's like these preservers or custodians, where you have that in every lifetime. It's like you incarnate because you are so in tune with the natural cycle. So you naturally do this, like, preserving, where it's like, whether it's energetic time capsules and crystals, or some people may be more physical, writing books. However it comes to, for some of you, it may be multiple things, like scribes, where you can, like, re-encode the fields, the Akash, again, frequency bands are coming through, and repick that back up in another incarnation. And so those of us who have these memories are, like, recoding or decoding, uncovering. And a big theme that's been coming up for me this week is, like, the last piece of the puzzle for this next phase of uncovering the original crystalline blueprint is knowing that there's nothing left to fix. And actually, Spiritualistic, she has her own channel, she brought through that phrase, like, there's nothing left to fix. And once you realize that, it's a restoration, like, well, she didn't use that word, I'm using that word, but like an uncovering. And I had already been, like, working through that, but just to hear her say that, it just clicked something. And I have tingles now on my pinky finger on the left hand, the feminine emotional aspect. There's something about, like, again, accepting the way everything has been designed and allowing, and there's something, like, being birthed from that. There's another piece coming in. I just don't know if it's the right time to, I can feel it floating in the field. I don't know if it's the right time to anchor that. We'll kind of see if it comes up naturally. I just got really hot. My heart is, like, opening, and, like, I feel like I'm getting floods of warmth and, like, a glow energy in the heart. Whew, it feels beautiful. A little messy, a little chaotic, but beautiful. Now I'm hearing an ambulance. You may hear it in the background. Some of you may be connecting with, I just call it the Archangel Michael frequency, clarity, truth, the sword of truth. Also protection. I always just send a few moments of, like, love when I hear an ambulance. Also the color bioluminescent blue, for some reason that always comes through the Archangel Michael frequency. And I call it the Archangel Michael frequency, and I've explained this before, so I'm not going to go into that, but just know that however you connect to that is your personal connection, but that's just the way it comes through for me, and maybe for some of you as well. So I wanted to also just sort of tune in for another moment to see if there's anything else. Okay, so I kept hearing the song in my head the other day, Diamond Girl. Ooh, oh, Diamond Girl. Does anyone remember that song? Ooh. That song, I hadn't heard that in so long. And I think I was making coffee, and all of a sudden it just, like, flew in my head. And I was like, where did this come from? And since then, I have been seeing nothing but references to, like, Diamond Girl. Actually, to bring up this movie again, A League of Their Own, they say Diamond Girl. And I was like, are you kidding me? I really felt like I needed to watch this movie. There were so many synchronicities. And there's something, too, about, like, the love dynamics in that movie. I'm not going to go into it at the moment, but if it comes through naturally, I will tap into that. Maybe there's something there. But Diamond Girl. Of course, I'm being taken to the diamond template, or the double diamond template, the Diamond Sun DNA Grail lines. Some of you may be, like, having some resurfacing memories, experiences, feelings, knowings, clairs coming through, connected to you. The indigos are coming through, and the diamond or double diamond sun template, the emerald founders, the 48 strand. Yeah, the emerald founders consciousness. I will definitely go more into this in the overflow on Patreon. But I wanted to just tap into that a little bit. Last night I was squeezing lime juice out of limes. For some reason I was just being shown like the squeezing of something. The word wholeness is also coming through. Layers, minerals, essence. Very interesting. Okay. I felt like Googling the spiritual symbolism of lime. Purification, renewal, protection, and vitality. Often used in practices for cleansing negative energy and promoting positive vibes, love, and joy with a refreshing scent, linking to uplifting the heart and solar plexus chakras. Though in biblical context, lime or quicklime can also represent divine judgment and destruction. There's another, I was talking about the Oracle card, Work Your Light Oracle, and for some reason I got sidetracked. And the Soul Family card kept coming through with dolphins on it. So it does feel like there's this coming together of, I remember like one of the first times I learned the phrase Soul Family, even though I don't like saying that phrase, certain words just really get to me, but I knew that there was like, had to be other people out there. And at this time I was still very much in like what I used to call the spiritual closet. And, not that I identify as spiritual anyway, just, like wanting to talk about metaphysics and all these things. It was like a very internal thing. Like I didn't really want to do it like externally at that time. Anyway, so I remember I would like call in people that I could have these experiences with. And last night, as we were closing out the new year, I realized that I was at this gathering that I wasn't even planning on doing anything. Like I got the invite a few hours, like earlier in that day. And I looked around and I was like, wow, like the last few New Year's Eves, I like was either alone or like, which is fine. I love being alone. Like, but yeah, I was just like in a setting where I felt like I could just be myself. And it was just, I just had such a moment of like, wow, I feel so grateful. And it's not like I might not even see a lot of these people again, but it was just like knowing that whether it's a moment or a night or a lifetime, a couple seasons, like knowing that that's happening and like reflecting on that and knowing that there's so much more to come was just like one of those moments of like, wow, like this is something that I planted a seed, I don't know, like 7 years ago. And it's been happening in very unexpected ways. So yeah, wherever you're at in that process, it does feel like that's definitely a collective ripple right now. And another collective ripple that's coming through when I was being shown the lime for some reason. Last night I got this ping about the fascia of the body and essentially how through these different collective waves, we go through these almost like those of us who are tuned into, that's why collective tap-ins are so potent right now, because and those of us feeling called to share them. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, why would I share when there's so many other people doing it? But we each have these collectives, so it's really fascinating. Anyway, so right now it feels like the collective that I'm tuned into is really called to the fascia of the body. And, at one point it was like a lot about the mental plane and subliminals, which it's not that those things go away, but that doesn't seem like, it seems like a lot of that has been integrated. And now there's this really, really big call about the fascia and working with the fascia of the body and fascia realignment and release. And I remember like researching about the Barnes Institute and learning, I think actually someone told me this like years ago, and it always stuck with me that the creator of myofascial release, the Barnes Institute, I think it's called, that person who created it essentially like rediscovered in the body the fourth crystalline layer of the fascia, And like when you get into the fascia, why myofascial release is so important is when you hold in the fascia. That's why it's not just about massage and moving around, but it's that like sweet spot of holding down. You're resetting the crystalline layer of the fascia. And that's where this release comes, and like fascia realignment essentially. And it feels like there's a big collective call for those of us who are holding like the cellular template or retemplating to work with the fascia if you're not already. Of course, please like do your own due diligence and make sure that's right for you, but that's what it feels like is coming through so strongly. Collective fascia reset, release. There's also like a collective of us who went through like some sort of weight gain, maybe for someone weight loss. There's something about the body changing too, and like kind of bringing everything to the surface emotionally, and then like holding other people's burdens. You know, like you may have like consistent or reoccurring like neck and shoulder aches and pains, lower back. I'm getting knee, a very particular left knee for someone. Wherever it is for you, there might be multiple areas. There's like this ancestral emotional connection. The eyes are coming through as well. Where, jaw tension. These feel like the strongest triggers. Also in between the shoulder blades in the back. So along with working with the emotional alchemy, there's something now about like somatic practices and fascia release. So in case that was like a piece for someone, or maybe you're already doing that and that's just like a confirmation or validation to keep going because you're on to something. And with the collective like body changes, you know, weight gain, weight loss, having a hard time with that, I've noticed like a lot of people going through this, and it feels like there's about to be a release in that area. So whether you're trying to, again, gain weight, lose weight, tone, whatever it is, there's something about the physical body that will be having a success, whereas before you may not have had that. But I feel like there was actually a divine purpose for that, is what I'm hearing. I don't like to always use that phrase, but I felt it. And there's an expression of the inner alchemization process starting to externalize, and the whether it was weight gain, whatever it was that physically you felt like you couldn't just break through, there was a protection in that. I know that might be like hard to hear for someone, but that's what I'm feeling. And I know I'm also in this as well. And it doesn't even feel like you're doing, it's not about like necessarily doing something differently. It's more just like the time is right now. It's time for that. And there's this like glow, this internal glow that's going to be extruding outward. So you may notice like your eye color changing. For some of you, hair color. You could have these like external appearance shifts and seeds, if you will, that have been planted that are starting to bloom. And this is not coming through as like, oh great, I've been waiting for my like it's not coming through in like a shallow way. This is like your internal beauty like shining externally. So even if it's not like something maybe physical changing that like is a beauty standard across the masses, like there's something for you that's like shining outward. You know, it will be different for everyone, of course, but and I know other people are also getting that message, like other people tapping into energy, and I've been getting this in waves for a really long time, and I've been having my own experiences, so I just wanted to share it from my lens, but I know that there's others also talking about this as well in different ways. Decluttering, antiques, these are some things that could be coming up. Decluttering spaces, your body, technology, these are just some examples. Your phone, emails, storage. I just heard the cloud. The cloud. Excuse me. Some of you may be cellularly purging, like through, you may feel like you're having this like really lingering like cold, cough, sinuses, things like this. Mouth breathing is coming through. Stomach upset. Skin. Some of you may be purging through the skin. Like fungus, psoriasis, things like this. My elbow just pinged. Some of you could have like, oh my God, I forgot about this. Years ago, I used to get a third nipple quote. That's what I called it. On my elbow. And it was like scaly. I don't really get that as much anymore, but someone could have like an issue like that. Like scaly, dry patches, acne. I'm having this thing on my right eye that I've talked about it before. I know I'm going to say this wrong. I've looked it up a million times. Casaleon, I think that's the way you say it. I forget how you say it. And it never caused pain before, but on my right eye actually hurts a little bit. So I feel like there's going to be a breakthrough with something. I know that's a weird way to interpret it, but that's what I'm feeling. And they say when we have these things, it's like our body calling attention. So I'm also being taken to the ribs. A conversation may be coming in soon for someone. You may be getting some sort of opportunity. I pulled a card from, I can't remember what deck it was at my mom's. I think it was this goddess oracle deck. And I checked in on the hieroglyphic template, and I just asked for like a card for the energy. This was like a couple of days ago, and the card Golden Opportunity came out. So I feel like there's this like, right? We're talking about the ascent on the next quote golden age. I feel like there's like a golden opportunity in this template that's coming through, and I feel like it's coming in multiple areas because, and I've been saying this for a while, but I feel it so strongly, and I know others do too. And maybe you feel it as well. I was playing with a deck of cards last night. Cardomancy has been like the slowest divination learning for me. Like when I see a deck of cards, I just kind of play and look up the cards as I go, but they don't stick in my brain for some reason because it just happens every once in a while when it shows up. And I can like read the energy, but I can never remember the card meanings. Anyway, so last night I was playing with a deck of cards showed up. Actually, it was a Christmas Story deck. Isn't that, I think that's the name of the movie, Christmas Story. And the cards, it was like one card kind of just like fell out before I was even ready. Like I shuffled a couple times and it fell out, but I was guided to take it. And I looked it up and it was the 9 of spades. And I was like, you know what? If it was meant to come out, it will come out again. So I put it back in the deck and I shuffled. Nothing was coming out. Boom. Same card. 9 of spades comes out again. And I was like, okay, I'll look it up. I looked it up and I'm going to share it because it feels collective. And I just saw 44 on the timer and it's 4:40 on the clock. So you could be seeing 4s. And the importance of the shuffle, I'll get into in a second, but that's also relevant. So I'm not sure how long, but I just lost a pretty big chunk of audio. And I was ending the transmission and it was 4:44 and I didn't realize it. And I was like, oh, perfect ending. And then the audio cut and I was like, oh, how much did I lose? And I just went back and this whole last segment, I just heard the phrase lost civilizations. Some of you may be getting into like ancient civilizations, lost civilizations, or maybe you've been into that. Yeah, like the excavation. But anyway, so at 4:44, I lost again. I don't want to say it that way, but that's just what I'm saying. I lost a significant chunk of the audio. And honestly, I don't feel like I have the energy right now to like tap back in. So I'm going to take a little break and come back and sit with that for a moment. That could be a message in itself for someone. Yeah, 3s are coming out again. And I know I'll be picking back up at the shuffle of the cardomancy because that was the whole where the audio cut off, and that was exactly the segment that I just went into.